The grand ballroom of the Blackwood Grand Hotel shimmered beneath thousands of crystal lights. Every table was decorated with white roses and golden candles, while the city's wealthiest families laughed, toasted, and celebrated the engagement of billionaire CEO Victoria Ashford. Reporters waited outside, eager to capture the perfect fairy tale ending for the woman who had rebuilt one of America's largest shipping empires after tragedy nearly destroyed her. But despite her confident smile and flawless appearance, Victoria's heart had never truly healed. 5 years earlier, her husband, Navy Commander Daniel Ashford, had disappeared during a classified rescue mission in the Atlantic Ocean. His body was never recovered, and after months of searching, the military declared him dead. Since that day, Victoria had carried an invisible wound that no amount of success, wealth, or luxury could erase. Tonight was supposed to be the night she finally moved on. Her fiancé, Richard Collins, stood beside her greeting influential guests with effortless charm. The orchestra played softly, champagne glasses clinked together, and everything seemed perfect, until the ballroom doors suddenly opened. Every conversation stopped. 2 security guards escorted a tall, broad-shouldered man inside. He wore a faded olive-green t-shirt, navy cargo pants, and worn leather boots. His thick dark hair looked slightly messy, and the rough stubble on his face suggested he had spent more time raising his child than worrying about appearances. In one arm, he carried a sleeping little girl no older than 5. The child rested peacefully against his shoulder, clutching a stuffed dolphin. The man looked calm despite dozens of suspicious eyes staring at him. He wasn't dressed for a billionaire's celebration, and whispers immediately spread through the ballroom. Who invited him? Is he military? Why is security bringing him inside? Victoria turned toward the commotion, expecting another unwanted journalist. But then her eyes froze. Hanging around the stranger's neck was a pair of silver navy dog tags attached to an old chain. Beneath them rested a small silver compass necklace engraved with the initials DA. Her breathing stopped. No. It couldn't be. That necklace had belonged to Daniel. She remembered fastening it around her husband's neck the night before his final deployment. She had personally engraved the words "Always find your way home" on its back. It was one of a kind. There was no duplicate. Her champagne glass slipped from her trembling fingers and shattered across the marble floor. The entire ballroom fell silent. Ignoring everyone's confused voices, Victoria walked directly toward the stranger. Her heartbeat pounded louder with every step. The man looked at her with calm blue eyes that held both exhaustion and quiet strength. Without saying a word, Victoria reached forward with shaking fingers and grabbed the compass necklace hanging against his chest. The stranger instinctively stepped back. "What are you doing?" one security guard demanded. Victoria ignored him. She flipped the necklace over. There it was. "Always find your way home." The exact engraving. Her knees nearly gave out. Where did you get this?" she whispered. The man frowned, clearly confused. "It belonged to my father." Victoria felt the world tilt beneath her feet. "No," she said, shaking her head. "You're lying." "I'm not. This necklace belonged to my husband. I've worn it since I was 18. The ballroom buzzed with whispers again. Richard quickly walked over, placing a protective hand on Victoria's shoulder. "Victoria, this man is obviously trying to scam you." The stranger's expression hardened. "I didn't come here for money." "Then why are you here?" The man looked down at the sleeping girl in his arms before answering quietly. "I came because someone sent me an invitation with your name on it." He pulled a folded envelope from his pocket. Victoria opened it. There was no signature. Only one sentence. "If you want the truth about Commander Daniel Ashford, ask Ethan Carter." Victoria slowly looked back at the stranger. "Ethan." He nodded. "My name is Ethan Carter." The name meant nothing to her. But the necklace meant everything. Richard immediately signaled security. "This is enough." Escort him out. Two guards grabbed Ethan's arms. The little girl woke instantly. Daddy! Her frightened voice echoed through the ballroom. She wrapped her tiny arms around Ethan's neck. Don't let them take Daddy. Several guests looked uncomfortable. Victoria raised her hand. Stop. Everyone froze. She couldn't explain it. Something about Ethan didn't feel dangerous. He looked confused, even frightened himself. Then she noticed another detail. On Ethan's right wrist was a faded scar. A crescent-shaped burn mark. Exactly like Daniel's. Impossible. Daniel had received that burn during a naval training accident years before they met. How could this stranger have the same scar? Victoria stared at him in disbelief. Take off the necklace. Ethan hesitated. It was my father's. I said, take it off. Slowly, he removed the chain and handed it to her. Her hands trembled as she examined every scratch. Every tiny dent. Every mark. There wasn't a single difference. It was Daniel's. Richard's patience snapped. This has gone far enough. He pointed toward Ethan. Call the police. Suddenly the little girl spoke again. My daddy didn't steal anything. The innocence in her voice silenced everyone. She looked directly at Victoria. My daddy saves people. Victoria knelt beside her. What's your name? Lily. How old are you? I'm 5. Victoria smiled sadly. My husband loved dolphins too. Lily's eyes widened. So did Grandpa Daniel. Victoria felt every ounce of strength leave her body. What did you just say? My grandpa. The room became so quiet that even the orchestra had stopped playing. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. I never knew him personally, he admitted softly. My father died before I was born. Everything I know comes from my grandmother. Victoria could barely breathe. What was your father's name? Ethan answered without hesitation. Michael Carter. She searched her memory. No. Daniel had never mentioned anyone named Michael Carter. Unless Michael wasn't just anyone. Unless he was connected to Daniel in a way she had never known. Richard stepped closer. Victoria, this is ridiculous. They're making up stories. Before anyone could respond, an elderly woman suddenly stood from the back of the ballroom. She had remained unnoticed until now. Holding an old wooden cane, she slowly walked forward. When she saw the necklace in Victoria's hands, tears immediately filled her eyes. I warned them, she whispered. They buried the wrong secrets. Everyone stared at her. She stopped directly in front of Ethan. Then gently touched his face. My grandson. Ethan looked stunned. Grandma? Victoria's heart raced. You know him? The elderly woman nodded. Then she looked directly into Victoria's eyes. I've waited 30 years for this family to learn the truth. The ballroom erupted into shocked whispers. Victoria tightened her grip around Daniel's necklace. Every answer she believed about her husband's life, every official military report, every painful memory, suddenly felt like a carefully constructed lie. And for the first time in 5 long years, she wasn't wondering whether Daniel had died. She was wondering who had gone to extraordinary lengths to erase the truth. Before you continue to Chapter 2, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the biggest secrets, the most emotional reunion, and the shocking truth behind Daniel's necklace are only just beginning. The hidden bloodline. Silence swallowed the ballroom as every eye shifted toward the elderly woman. She took a slow breath, gripping her cane tightly before looking directly at Victoria. You deserve the truth, she said quietly. But once you hear it, nothing in your life will ever be the same. Richard stepped forward. This is enough. She's clearly confused. No, the old woman replied, her voice suddenly firm. You're the one who's afraid. The room fell silent again. Victoria turned toward Ethan. Tell me everything. Right now. Ethan nodded slowly. I grew up believing my father, Michael Carter, died before I was born. My grandmother raised me. She never spoke much about the past, but every birthday she would hand me this necklace and say, one day it will lead you to your real family. I thought it was just an old story, until I received that anonymous letter. The old woman wiped away a tear. Michael and Daniel weren't strangers, she revealed. They were brothers. Gasps echoed across the ballroom. Victoria's eyes widened. Daniel told me he was an only child. He believed that, the woman answered sadly. Because someone made sure he never learned the truth. Years earlier, Daniel's wealthy father had fallen in love with a woman from a poor family. His powerful parents rejected the relationship and secretly took away their firstborn son, Michael. The baby was given to another family, and every record was erased. Years later, Daniel was born into the rich Ashford family, completely unaware that he already had an older brother somewhere in the world. Ethan stood frozen. So. Michael was my father, and Daniel was my uncle. The old woman nodded. Yes. Victoria's hands trembled around the necklace. Then why did Daniel have this? Because Michael found him. The ballroom became silent once more. 3 years before Daniel disappeared, Michael secretly contacted him. They met several times and slowly built the brotherhood they had been robbed of. Daniel gave Michael that compass necklace and promised that one day they would tell the whole family the truth. Victoria felt tears forming. He never told me. He wanted to, the woman whispered. But he was waiting for the right time. Before anyone could speak, a young waiter rushed into the ballroom carrying a small package. Excuse me. Is there a Victoria Ashford here? This was delivered just now. Everyone watched as Victoria carefully opened the brown envelope. Inside was an old Navy flash drive. Attached was a handwritten note. If you're watching this. I failed to come home. Daniel. Victoria's heartbeat pounded in her ears. With shaking hands, she plugged the flash drive into the ballroom's giant presentation screen. The lights dimmed. Static filled the screen. Then Daniel appeared. Alive. Wearing his Navy uniform. Looking directly into the camera. Victoria covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. Daniel smiled softly. If you're seeing this, it means someone didn't want the truth to survive. The entire ballroom froze. The ballroom was so silent that even the sound of the projector seemed deafening. Every guest stared at the giant screen where Daniel Ashford appeared, alive, calm, and wearing his Navy uniform. Victoria's hands trembled as tears streamed down her face. For 5 years she had dreamed of hearing his voice again, but never like this. Daniel looked directly into the camera. Victoria, if you're watching this, then my mission didn't end the way the Navy reported. I wasn't killed by the enemy. I discovered a smuggling operation hidden inside our own military supply routes. Someone powerful was selling classified naval technology overseas. Before I could expose them, they came after me. The guests exchanged nervous glances. I copied every piece of evidence onto another drive and hid it where only one person would understand the clue, the compass necklace. If anything happens to me, trust no one, especially anyone who suddenly becomes interested in Ashford shipping. Victoria slowly turned toward Richard. His face had gone pale. Daniel continued. There's one more truth I've hidden. 3 years ago I found my older brother, Michael Carter. We were separated as children, but we became family again. If Michael isn't alive, protect his son. Ethan is my nephew. He's the last person I trust. Ethan stood frozen, unable to believe what he was hearing. Victoria looked at him with tear-filled eyes. For the first time, she didn't see a stranger. She saw Daniel's family. Suddenly Richard shouted, "Turn it off." Before anyone could react, he grabbed the laptop and threw it onto the floor. The screen went black. Guests gasped. Richard's calm smile disappeared, replaced by panic. "You don't understand," he yelled. Daniel was going to destroy everything. Victoria stepped back. "You knew." Richard didn't answer. Security guards moved closer, but before they could stop him, Richard pulled a small key from his pocket and sprinted toward the ballroom exit. "He's running," someone shouted. Without hesitation, Ethan handed Lily to her grandmother. "Stay with Grandma." Then he chased Richard through the hotel corridors. Richard reached the underground parking garage and jumped into a black SUV, but before he could close the door, Ethan grabbed him. The two men struggled beside the vehicle. Richard threw wild punches, but Ethan's Navy training gave him the advantage. Richard suddenly laughed. "You think you've won? The evidence is gone." Ethan smiled calmly. "No. Daniel planned for people exactly like you." He reached into the compass necklace and pressed a tiny hidden latch. A miniature memory card slid into his hand. Richard's eyes filled with horror. "The real evidence," he whispered. Police sirens echoed through the garage. Officers surrounded Richard before he could escape. Moments later, he was placed in handcuffs while shouting that none of this was supposed to happen. Back inside the ballroom, Victoria hugged Ethan tightly. "For 5 years," she whispered through tears, "I thought I had lost my family forever." Ethan smiled sadly. "You didn't lose them." Little Lily ran toward Victoria. "Does this mean your family too?" Victoria knelt and wrapped her arms around the little girl. "Yes," she whispered. "From today, we'll never let each other be alone again." Months later, Ashford Shipping established the Daniel and Michael Foundation, supporting the families of fallen service members. Ethan accepted a leadership role in the foundation, Lily finally found the loving family she had always deserved, and Victoria realized that although Daniel never made it home, his courage had brought together the family that fate had separated decades before. As the sun rose over the ocean Daniel had once sworn to protect, Victoria held the compass necklace in her hand and smiled through her tears. Its message had finally come true. Always find your way home.